Welcome. I want to start off by saying this is super interactive. We'll be moving around, doing some exercising. And so I want to make sure that you've got some comfortable clothes on in a space where you can comfortably move about. We're not really doing any crazy exercises. We're doing more personal evaluations, and make sure you have a pen and paper handy. I am going to paste in the notes there. If you don't have the workbook quite yet, that is where you can go to download the workbook. And so I'm going to check my volume really quick. Okay, beautiful. All right, so let's get started here. I would love to hear where you're joining me from today. Please participate, jump right in and get rolling here. Got too many screens on and a little bit like don't know where to look. But anyways, just type in where you're from. How many kids do you have? How many months postpartum are you? Or are you pregnant? Are you the type of person that likes to know ahead of time what to expect? Everyone's read what to expect when you're expecting, but have you looked into what to do after you've got the baby? So I want to hear from you. Post in the chat there. Today is all about learning where your postpartum body is at so that you can get to where you want to go. My promise for you today is to provide clarity to lead you towards the next right path to your fitness goals. And my mission is to arm you with the information that your doctor or friends never told you about when it comes to fitness. And I'm also here to show you that your fitness goals and dreams can be a reality if you take time to bulletproof your body after baby. All right, you're going to get a lot of value today, especially if you fit into one of these criteria, if you've carried a baby at some point in life. So this is not limited to just the first few months after pregnancy. I do work with people that have 10 years postpartum and are still trying to get back to some of this basic stuff. If you're ready to start working out but don't know where to start, if you started working out after baby, but things aren't feeling like they used to, maybe you're worried about the appearance of your belly, things aren't feeling right, and you want to see weight loss results, but not at the expense of injuring your body. Maybe you're someone that pees your pants when you laugh or sneeze, and maybe you struggle to feel confident and content in your new mom body. I'm going to go over some exercises with you that are going to show you all the strengths and weaknesses that you have brought with you today in your postpartum body. These movements will show you things that you need to work on to ensure you get your body back after baby the right way without injury. And in many cases, some women end up better than they were before. So taking good notes today is the secret to planning your next step in your fitness journey and knowing what the right moves are here for you. Now, I want to be honest with you. Most people who attend workshops like this get excited right after the workshop. They're all pumped, but they never actually take the action that's going to give them the results that they're committed to. So obviously, in this short amount of time, I can't teach you everything I know. So please note that this stuff is just the beginning. It's a stripped down basic version of postpartum fitness. And the problem is that we only have a short time together. And there's, of course, obviously more stuff I want to share with you. So at the end of the workshop, if you want to learn how I can further help you, I would love to invite you to stick around after I give the presentation, and I can show you how I work with women and help them through their postpartum period. And if you're not interested in learning about how I can help you once we're over, you're welcome to leave when you're ready. But my only ask is that you actually take actions on the things that you learn about yourself today, whether you choose to go about it your own or if you choose to work with a trainer like myself. I also want to provide you with a mini disclaimer that we're not diagnosing anything today. We're just learning more about our bodies and some of our current strengths and weaknesses as a postpartum mama. I want to urge you, if something feels weird or off, it's always best to consult your doctor or postpartum physical therapist for an appropriate diagnosis and evaluations. If you are ready to come join me in this journey, I want you to type it, let's do it, or your favorite emoji. So reality check. What are your challenges and desires when it comes to health and fitness as a mom? Some of the most common challenges I hear from new moms when it comes to working out after baby is that they feel unsure on where to start after they get that clearance to work out. Now, maybe you're someone that pees your pants when you work out, or maybe things are hurting and feeling awkward, or maybe you've just thought about getting started, but time, life, and excuses always get in the way. So type number one if you resonate with any of that, or type in the chat what you're currently dealing with at this time. I would love to hear. It's always great when we can share and learn from each other here. I want you to know you're not alone. What I noticed is that most moms desire to be able to lose that baby weight, but don't want the huge time commitment and starvation diets, which is totally understandable. But deep down inside, I really think that we can all agree that we want to regain our confidence in our appearance and be able to keep up with the kids, achieve long-term health that allows you to look great, feel younger, all while being able to do the activities you love without pain or limitation. Give me an amen. This is me as like my first job as a trainer right out of my certification. I thought I was badass. I thought I was like Jillian Michaels. I have flashbacks of this. I can smell that rubber from the gym floor, sweat, and CK1 perfume. I was so young and innocent and stupid back then. I really thought that just because I got recently certified as a trainer that I knew it all and I was like the coolest. And it wasn't long before I gained the reputation in the gym of being the tough trainer, like yelling at her clients to finish their reps or push through or keep going. At one point, most of my clients were women, and a lot of them were trying to lose baby weight. They came to me because they wanted someone to motivate them, push them really hard so they can fit into their skinny jeans and rock a bathing suit in their Orlando timeshare vacations. And they wanted all that yelling and screaming and this boot camp style sort of workouts. They wanted to work out harder than they ever did before because they're so determined to lose this baby weight. And I was actually having a blast working with these women because they were seeing results. We were having fun, but all good things sometimes come to an end. And I don't like sharing it. It really puts a pit in my stomach when I think about this and when I talk about this. It's one of the things from my past that kind of haunts me. Now, for a while, I've always hesitated about talking about this and being honest. I mean, being an online trainer is all about appearances these days, and people work really hard to hide their faults and their past and just show this perfect highlight reel on their Insta or something. But this is part of my story, so I want to be 100% transparent here. It wasn't long before my mommy boot camp style workouts like came to a crashing halt. Clients started missing workouts, and almost all of them started developing injuries, and injuries caused by me and the way I was training. And my personal training certification and 99% of personal training certifications don't tell you how to work with postpartum moms. So in fact, that word was never even mentioned in my training. I was taught all the things to adjust and watch out for and signs and things to look out for my clients, but there was no mention of anything postpartum. At this point, I was a 20-year-old hotshot trainer who assumed that these women needed to work their butts off and get skinny again. And all I had to do was push them to do that. I had no idea that the core and pelvic floor needed some healing and rebuilding. I had no idea how the female body changed during this time. And like most people, I assumed that after a few weeks of rest, the body would be ready for what you did before. And I was totally wrong. Now, after seeing one mom after another get hurt, I was finally able to put the pieces together and realize that the reason these women were getting injured was because of me, my stupidity, and my ego and my ignorance. So I got really depressed. I couldn't stop blaming myself. I was so embarrassed to go back to that gym that I eventually just quit. I had failed at this one job that I was really excited about, really wanted to do. And I was scared to train another mom, worried and paranoid that they'd all just get injured because of me. So it took me a long time before I started training moms again. So eventually down the road, I heard about a pregnancy and postpartum coaching certification. It made me sick to my stomach when I heard about it, but it brought me back to a time when I was this young, naive trainer. And I knew that deep down that I had to take this class. I had to learn the stuff that all my certifications never told me about. Also at this time, I was considered planning a family, and I didn't want to be a victim of a personal trainer like me. So I took the certification and was blown away by all the stuff that trainers and doctors are never really educated on. So I created my business, Strong Moms Fitness, to help moms during this time so that they won't be a victim to a bad personal trainer or an uneducated social media guru, because no one ever told them this stuff was a thing. So many moms get clearance to work out and want so bad to lose the weight and end up in a program that just leaves them injured. So this workshop today is going to get you started in the right direction on your journey. And I don't want to see another postpartum mom to get injured on my watch. So I'd love to know right now, type it into the chat, where you are in your fitness journey. Are you just starting? Are you in that thinking about it, planning phase? Have you tried to start your working out, but things always got in the way? I'd love to hear where you're at with that. All right, I want to help you with your fitness journey. And today I'm going to walk you through the biggest myths about postpartum fitness. And I'm going to show you why they are wrong and what you need to do so that you're not a victim of bad information. Also, I'm going to take you through 5 self-assessment activities that will give you an idea of what your body is ready for at this particular moment in time. And of course, that's going to change and evolve as you do. You're going to leave here today feeling confident, knowing what you need to do as your next step. So I want to take a quick poll in the chat. Type in there, on a scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you with your postpartum belly, stomach, pooch, whatever you want to call it? If your answer is 9 or 10, I want you to know you are not alone. It's the number one thing that people ask me about after baby, and they are all like obsessed with the belly and how to fix it. Now, because fixing the belly is so popular and the most common thing I get asked about, I'm just going to jump right in. I usually say this later in the presentation, but I know everyone wants to hear this, so I'm going to push this at the top. All right, so of all the moms that come to me with their ab worries, they all ultimately ask me some version of, how many crunches do I need to do? How often? How many? How can I get rid of this belly? The biggest myth I hear when it comes to postpartum fitness is, if you want flat abs after baby, is do more crunches. And that is the biggest myth out there. I need to start off right now by saying 100% confidence that if you have had a baby, crunches are not the first choice exercise to jump to for those abs of your dreams. But I want you to understand this myth and why it is a myth. I mean, every ab exercise video out there is just a combination of crunches or sit-ups. There is so much pressure on moms to bounce back after baby. And it's no wonder I see all the crazy venting on Facebook posts of moms worried and upset they'll never lose the baby weight or look the same ever again. Instead, time should be spent reflecting on the amazing changes of your body and belly and what you've endured, and thinking about why it actually takes more than a month to start seeing some changes. And I'm going to help facilitate that thinking process there. I want to make sure that you are aware of what diastasis is. And even though it seems to be a big concern in various athletic activities like CrossFit, it is still very much unknown by many moms. And oftentimes it's the reason why the belly never looks or functions quite the same as it used to. So the first exercise we're going to do together is going to give you an idea of whether you could potentially have a diastasis. Now, what exactly is a diastasis and why should you care? Diastasis is a normal part of pregnancy, and at their due date, studies have shown that 100% of women have a diastasis. And this is because your ab muscles had to expand so much in order to accommodate a growing baby. Your six-pack muscle, the rectus abdominis, has a right side and a left side, as you can see in the picture. And it's connected together by a tissue called the linea alba. And as the baby grows, this right and left side spread further and further apart from each other as everything stretches and expands. A standard diastasis diagnosis is defined as a greater than 2 centimeter width of separation. And diastasis does not mean that you're doomed or broken and that you can't improve it or that you won't be able to do certain things going forward. That is totally wrong. So I do want to encourage you that if you do have something like this, there is room for improvement. Now, along with evaluating the width when looking at a diastasis, you also want to consider the integrity of that linea alba. And for many women with functional issues of the abs, a lot of it comes from that area of connective tissue. So we do want to observe the level of its tension when demand and exercise is put on it. So together we'll be both observing tension and width, and I'm going to go into more of that a little bit later. It is also reassuring to know that sometimes a diastasis will heal on its own without any intervention. Studies have shown that at 6 weeks postpartum, 60% of women have a diastasis, and at 6 months postpartum, 39% of women have a diastasis, and at 1 year postpartum, 32% of women will still have a diastasis. So being that a third of moms have a diastasis, it is understandable that I get so many questions, and most moms are freaked out about it, mainly because they're not happy with the way it looks. But it's important to understand that having a diastasis can't be the underlying cause of things like pain, weakness, and left untreated, a severe diastasis increase your risk of an umbilical hernia because the abs are too weak to withstand the pressure caused by intense exercise movements or even just some general heavy lifting. So it's important to figure out what you're working with before you get started on any workout program. So this is where the part of the workshop where you're actually going to join me for an activity. So if you are able to lay on the floor, you want a firm surface on your back. Your first exercise is going to take you through the process of checking for a diastasis. And this is just a reference point to find out if you have one. And it doesn't mean that you're broken. It just means that you're going to need to put your attention on this and be your target. All right. So let's get to our exercise. So to sit down and get onto the ground, always bring yourself down on your side and roll onto your back. And if you're recovering from a baby, that's the safest way to get on your back without putting stress on your core and pelvic floor. I recommend using that whenever you get up and down. So let's observe the abs here. As you can see, the knees are bent, feet flat on the floor. Take the time to feel the stomach at rest so that when we're actually in check mode, we can start to feel the body working under us. Now, remember that the rectus muscle has that right and left side and that linea alba and that center line, which starts at the bottom of your sternum or chest bone and goes all the way down to your pubic bone. So what we're going to do now is we're going to mentally divide the linea alba into 3 areas, upper, middle, and lower, and those will be your checkpoints. So we're going to observe the width and tension of these 3 sections. And we'll start first with the upper section. Get yourself situated. And what you'll do is you're going to take your fingers and you're going to place them on the upper section with your knuckles pointing towards your toes. If you can look at the video here to get an idea. Now you want to get a measurement of the width distance between that right and left rectus. And we're going to be using our fingers as a ruler to measure how many fingers. So we can feel how many fingers are falling between those 2 rectus muscles. And then with your shoulders resting on the ground, I want you to raise your head off the ground, just enough for those abs to start engaging. And you don't need to do a full crunch here. Most people, you just raise your head and you can feel that contraction happen. Now take a moment to feel in that contraction, in that contracted area, the tension of the linea alba. Is it spongy? Is it bouncy like a trampoline or a taut rubber band? How about the width? How many fingers width are you getting in there? Can you feel the distance between the 2 rectus muscles? Now, like I mentioned earlier, a diastasis is considered greater than 2 fingers width. So make note of what you found on those upper abs. Next, we're going to measure the midsection and lower section. And I also want to point out that if you do have a C-section scar that has not healed, then go above or below the scar. If not, the midsection will be just above the belly button for most women. And now don't forget to observe, again, the level of tension and width of that section. So raise the head off the ground, measure the tension and width in that section. After you do the midsection, notate that. And finally, the last section is going to be the lower abs. And the lower abs are somewhere between the belly button and the pubic bone, measuring that width and observing the tension, and note that down. That's how you test for a diastasis. And if you feel comfortable sharing your numbers, I encourage you to put them in the group. And if you are shy, you can always just send me a private message if you want to chat more. And again, these are just numbers and not some clinical diagnosis. If something worries you or scares you from this assessment, please reach out to your doctor or postpartum physical therapist so that you can have a proper evaluation and diagnosis. Again, these are just reference points. Some may have a 1 finger width and have lots of pain and problems, and some women may have a 5 finger width and can go their whole lives without it affecting them. So these are just a reference point, just like your before and after pictures when you start a workout plan. It's just a different visual. So I do this exercise with all my clients, and all those, though in this workshop, I don't have enough time set aside to go over these numbers with you and all the individual specifics. So if you do have questions, send me a DM or a post in the Facebook group and we can go through and answer those together. Back to our myth here that crunches are the holy grail for getting rid of that mom belly. And I wanted to make sure that we bust that myth together and show you why crunches are not the answer. And to do that, I need to show you some anatomy. Let's get sciencey here, ladies. So here is the six-pack rectus abdominis we introduced a while ago, and that's the muscle that expands and separates in pregnancy. And the job of this muscle is to flex the core, meaning it brings your chest bone closer to your pubic bone. And we had just done that essentially in the diastasis check. Now, when we checked our diastasis, we felt our rectus at rest. And then we also felt it when it was working, when we lifted our head off the ground. Think about what you noticed visually. What did you feel in your stomach when you went through that exercise? If you're someone that's forgotten, you can always do a seated crunch while I talk you through this so that you can maybe feel what exactly is going on. But you might have noticed when you activated the rectus, the gap widened more than it did when it was at rest. And it also made the muscle feel thicker and even appear thicker. Maybe you even observed your belly doming out like a loaf of bread. And right now, I'm hoping that like a light bulb is going off in your head right now, because if our ab exercises focus predominantly on doing more and more crunches so that you can fix the abs, you could actually be doing the opposite of what you want to do. So you could be increasing this width and adding stress to an area that is trying to heal. And this can also create bulk in an area when that's the opposite thing we want to do. So instead, I want to direct you to my favorite muscle, which is on your right side. It's called the transverse abdominis muscle, and it's like your own personal corset or pair of Spanx. And it's the deepest of the 4 abdominal muscles, and it starts in the lower back and hip bone, and it wraps around your torso, around the abs, and it inserts in that midline, as you can see in the image. And when this muscle contracts, it works to compress and flatten the abdominal wall, creating a corset-like effect. So who had a light bulb moment with that one? Hopefully, you've all had a nice epiphany right there that the transverse abdominis is where you need to start your exercises. But let me ask you, do you know how to isolate or work that transverse abdominis muscle? So for our next exercise, we're going to try and find and engage our transverse abdominis muscle together so that we can start putting it to work.
I've got another video for you. Get on your back by way of sitting down and then bringing yourself onto your side and rolling onto your back. That's going to put less stress on the diastasis if you have one. So your knees are going to be bent again, feet flat on the floor. Do a pelvic tilt or two so that you make sure that your back is lying flat on the ground, and just get your bearings here. So first we're going to focus on the lower portion of the muscle, which is from the belly button down. So place your fingers on that area so you can feel it contracting under your fingers. Most women that struggle with a mom pooch struggle to get this muscle activated or use it when they work out. So together, let's take an inhale. And on the exhale, try to lift your pelvic floor up towards your belly button, and then continue to lift it up like you are zipping up your pants. So if you couldn't feel that, another cue is to inhale, exhale, and pretend that you're lifting your belly button up and slightly bringing it in towards your spine. And make sure that your abdominals are as relaxed as you do this. You don't want to do a sucking in motion. You can also do a march with your feet in place, and you could probably feel it contract under your fingers. Let's focus on the middle section. So when activating the middle TA, focus on the belly button. And I want you to think of drawing that belly button right to the spine. Again, avoid sucking in here. That turns off the TA. Another good visual is to pretend your belly button's like a doorbell and you're going to be pressing in there. You can visualize your belly button is trying to move away from your shirt. And this is not to be confused with, again, sucking in your gut, manipulating air pressure. If you still can't feel it, again, try that marching to see if you can feel it contract under your fingertips. Take a last second to feel that mid, and then now we're going to work on that upper section and focusing on this area, which is basically above the belly button and to the ribs area. And just like the lower and middle transverse abdominis, just try to cinch in that upper portion of the torso. And this one is the most tricky to do. So it may take some time to get used to suck that in and contract that in. So just feel around. This may be something that you want to try again after we're done today. And of course, in the workbook there, you can jot down your findings from this.
I'd love for you to type in the chat a number 1 if you're able to feel something, maybe a 2 if you struggled, and if you struggled or didn't feel anything at all, just hit a number 2. That is totally okay. I want to finally bust this myth for you once and for all that crunches are not what's going to fix your belly after baby. In my programs, I teach my clients specific ways that they can get that strong TA, that diastasis, that allows that diastasis to function better and heal better. I'm sure that many of you today have learned that your abs need some rebuilding, and it's better to start this stuff off sooner than later. You do have an advantage starting this off early postpartum as opposed to 10 years postpartum, but this can lead to a source of some pain for some women. And this is also a big reason why a lot of women are so discouraged and distraught when they look in the mirror. They hate going into the pool and socializing. So this might be on your list of something to work on. So I want some action in the chat. Where's the chat? There. And see who's willing to start taking some action. And at this point, give your abs the attention that it needs right now. And imagine how much more confidence you're going to gain if you're able to improve just this one thing. So I want to give a shout out to all of you guys in the chat who said yes, who are going to take some action and help those abs. Whatever way works best for you, that's all that matters. Baby steps. If you just want to work on getting that TA activated again, doing some marches, that is a perfect step 1 here for the abs. All right, so next myth I want to bust is the old doctor clearance means you're 100% good to go and resume your old workouts. Let's talk about that one. I How many here have taken the advice and lived hard and fast by this rule? How many here know that this is the advice that can get you hurt and injured? And I know a lot of people are shocked, or maybe they don't want to hear this, but to me, it feels like some outdated advice, like the old apple a day saying. And that's totally not true. I'm sure part of the reason for this is because it's just old advice that was taught to doctors that was never updated and really thought about and applied like to an average woman. In medical schools, if doctors obviously learn the healing time of ligaments and tendons and body tissues. And if you look into the data and studies, you're going to find that depending on the type of tissue, healing can take anywhere from 6 months to a year for full recovery. And last time I checked, 6 months is way longer than 6 weeks. So regardless of the type of delivery you had, your tissues are taking way longer to heal than you were told. So just like any knee injury or ankle injury, there is a time to rest. There's a time to rehab and rebuild. And only after that is where we can start doing some of the more crazy things that we used to. And if we don't, we're going to end up with chronic pain or problems that never quite heal. All right. And now here is a personal thought on why I think some old school doctors are okay with giving the 6 months clearance. And I think it's because they don't realize how much fitness has evolved for women since some of these guidelines and textbooks came out like 20, 30, 40 years plus. And think about the exercises that your mom did in her day-to-day exercises. Maybe she went walking, maybe she took jazzercise, maybe she was into Jane Fonda or a treadmill or a recumbent bike that usually ends up holding clothing. But I want to talk about the activities that ladies are doing right now. CrossFit, HIIT training, mountain biking, triathlons are just a few examples of how women are more intensely active than ever. So instead of letting the body heal properly before returning to that stuff, moms are putting salt in the wounds because their doctor told them it was okay to return to fitness. And I want each and every one of you to be able to do the type of workout or activity that you want. But I'm also here to show you the bigger picture of why it is so important to start with rebuilding stuff first. And I don't want you to get injured and never be able to keep up with your kids because of an injury or pain. It is just so unnecessary these days. So the next assessment is going to be much easier, and you're probably going to want to take some notes on this and do this later when you have a chance to have some pictures with you. But I want you to analyze your posture when you're standing as relaxed as possible. I want you to be able to see the front, back, and sides from head to toe. So take all 4 angles and make sure you have good clearance above the head and clearance below to catch your feet, because feet tell you a lot about posture. I like to take a ruler or pencil to see where things are level or crooked. Are you leaning or tilted? Any basic posture analysis will show you how you're holding your weight, and it may give you a clue as to why certain parts of your body are hurting. If you're leaning forward, chances are your back might be sore, for example. It is so important for new moms to know that their bodies have changed to accommodate this baby. And that change includes posture, how you stand, how you balance your weight, and how you move. So if you go back to your old exercises, realize that your muscles are actually working differently now because of this new adapted posture. So your body is fighting against and compensating for these pregnancy changes, and it takes your body to retrain and learn how to go back and do those old exercises with your new 2.0 body. Now, of course, I'd love to do a full analysis of everyone here, but I do want to get on with the final tests. I do reserve special attention like this to my clients. And if that is something that you're interested in, stick around. I'd love to hear how many of you have found some things about their posture that you would like to improve upon. Maybe it could potentially be like old posture issues that have now just gone like totally exacerbated because of pregnancy. And chances are you've developed some new stuff from the stress of growing and carrying a baby for 9 months. And if you have a baby or a toddler, you're probably still carrying them 24/7. So a lot of that leaning and balancing your weight can put a lot of stress on your body. So type where you think you need to make some changes in your posture. Awesome. But I'd love to know who here has changed camps about this 6-month doctor clearance rule. I have so many other reasons why this rule is ridiculous. And this whole presentation proves this point, but I'm going to save you the rant today. So it's important to remember that your body has changed. It takes longer to heal than we're told. And it's sad, but most moms are given a false sense of security that they can handle the old things they were used to. But the truth is that the deeper parts of our body are still healing, and our body has changed physically, and it moves different because of our posture has changed as a result of pregnancy. Now, when you have these two forces in play, injury comes as a result. There's just no avoiding it. So if you're less than 6 months postpartum, remember that you have some healing, rehabbing, and rebuilding to do. And I said 6 months postpartum, not 6 weeks. So before you push yourself beyond your limits to lose weight as fast as possible, certain types of postpartum rehab exercises can be started as early as 2 weeks. But these are not your boot camp style exercises. These are healing and rehabbing exercises. But if you commit to it, I can guarantee you that in 6 months, if you compare your strength to someone that followed the old rules, you will be the one that is in better shape, has more strength, and less pain and problems. So I hope I have encouraged you to take some different action and choose a different step on your journey. The next myth I want to get into is the classic, if you did it before or during pregnancy, your body can handle it. Now, who here has heard some version of this? Type 1 if you agree with the statement, 10 if you disagree, and 5 if you're somewhere in the middle. Now, the other two conditions I want to inform you about today is pelvic organ prolapse and umbilical hernia. And I like to talk about them together and explain them together because in a way, they're similar because for the most part, they both involve the issue of pressure management. And I'm going to say this again because it's important to remember, but your body has sustained an injury and your body is different now in so many ways. So unfortunately, the hard work that you did up until your due date does not exempt you from a postpartum recovery. Let that sink in. All right. One of the reasons why if you did it before statement is a myth has to do with pressure management. Now, you may be curious about what exactly core pressure is and why pressure management is so crucial to your recovery. The best explanation I've heard regarding the core pressure is from a Canadian physical therapist. And she explains that a closed bag of chips, like that Lay's bag there on the slide, fresh from the store, filled with air, can be a visual for your core. The air in the bag provides cushion around the contents inside the bag and makes the bag less destructible, less prone to being deformed and crushed. Now, if you were to open the bag and release the pressure, you'd be left with a limp bag that no longer supports what's inside it. So imagine if you took that open bag and then you started adding air into it, like as much as you wanted, giving you the ability to choose how little or how much air you want. Now, you could vary with that adjustment of air, you can vary how strong and how protective that bag becomes. The bag compares to the core in that the core has a natural pressure level inside it. And when you have to lift something heavy, your core is going to produce more pressure to support and protect your spine and organs by this air pressure. Now, unfortunately for postpartum women, pressure always is not always a good thing. Pressure becomes a problem for you as a new mom when you're not strong enough to resist it and you don't know how to manage it effectively. So quickly back to the bag analogy, and I'm sure you're like me and you've taken a bag of chips and you've tried to open it by squeezing the hell out of the middle of the bag. Now, pelvic organ prolapse and umbilical hernias are examples of what can happen to the body if you can't manage your pressure. Your weak postpartum abs and pelvic floor react in a similar way to that chip bag when you squeeze it like crazy. It bursts open at the weakest point and chips go flying everywhere. Now, and before baby, core pressure is something that you've probably never thought about unless you're trying to sneeze or a fart. But no matter what your pregnancy and labor looked like, there is 100% guarantee that the muscles of your abs and pelvic floor have been beaten up for 9 months. So if you're unable to manage pressure in your pelvic floor, you can develop a pelvic organ prolapse, which is where the internal organs descend through the vaginal canal. And you can also develop umbilical hernia, which is common in postpartum women who have weak abs and can't manage pressure or have a severe diastasis. And the internal organs of the body push out through the abdomen in the belly button area, as you can see on this bottom right image. And our best judgment of control, like our best way to control our pressure, is by how we breathe. So we're going to just do a little bit of breathing here so you can see what you are working with. And it just takes time to observe what happens with your body when you do an inhale and exhale. So don't force anything. Just take your normal average breaths and note, is your breath naturally deep? Does your belly expand, or is it shallow when you breathe? And can you see movement coming from the chest, the abdomen, the shoulders? Where is all that coming from? I want you to take an inhale and notice what's happening with the muscles of your core and pelvic floor. Are they relaxed? Are they tense during this inhale? Or does the belly suck in when you inhale, almost like you're sucking in air? And I want you to look at your exhale and ask yourself the same questions and write down the things you observe. And I did make in the workbook a section where you can note all these findings. If it's okay for your current condition, grab something heavy off the ground and observe what happens to the core and pelvic floor when you're lifting. Do your abs feel strong and supported? And does the pelvic floor feel protected? Or are you totally unsure of what your body is doing? If you want to share some of these characteristics of your breath in the chat, I'd love to hear them. And in my opinion, again, my opinion, breathing is the most important thing to retrain after pregnancy. Yet it is the thing that is most ignored. And most people are like, well, isn't breathing 100% innate? And fortunately for survival mode, yes, breathing is innate in order to keep you alive. However, we need to learn how to breathe so that we can manage the pressure we put on that weak core and pelvic floor when we're exercising, doing housework, or even playing with the kids. For those of you who have naturally labored, you most likely used your breath to create some form of pressure to get the baby out. But now after the baby, as you start to heal and rebuild and retrain our body, we need to use our breath to keep our organs inside our body and support those weak and healing abs. Now, if you're interested in learning more about breathing, this stuff can be done as early as 2 weeks after baby. And I teach this as a foundational skill in my program, Rebuild After Baby. If you want to send me a DM, I'd love to send you a video link of my preferred method of breathing. And just even in the comments here, or send me a DM and I can post the video of my preferred technique for breathing for moms and how I help moms to use that breathing method to support the core and pelvic floor while you are healing. So please record all your findings from what you just observed. And if you notice that there is something that you struggle with, maybe you're not really sure about, I need you to type in the chat that you are committing to focusing on this area of your fitness now. So prolapse and hernia don't have the best outcomes. They usually result in a lot of therapy, surgery, lifelong management, and it's really not worth putting your body in a situation where you develop this. So I hope you'll take this seriously and take some time to learn more about how you can start to manage your pressure. And I want you to take the time to make this a focus for your long-term health. So just because you did it before pregnancy, your postpartum body might not be ready for those activities. Now that you know all the things that you need to work on, if you stick around after this last myth and exercise, I'm going to show you how we can fix and prevent a lot of the stuff that we talked about today. The last myth I hear about all the time is probably the myth that I hate the most, and it drives me up the wall. And it's a combination of two myths in one. The myth is that after baby, peeing your pants when you sneeze, laugh, or work out is normal and something that moms just need to deal with. And the second half of that myth is that Kegels are the solution. When I created this workshop, I asked a question in Facebook asking if any postpartum moms have issues with peeing their pants and need support. The first two responses I got my point that moms aren't told this stuff. Now, I wish I could hear the tone of this woman's voice, but she responded, "Is that part of having kids?" And then shortly thereafter, another woman replied, "Practice your Kegels." So I'm guessing that if they don't know this stuff, then you probably don't either. Now, what I wanted to leave you with today is that leakage issues are very common. It can be caused by more than one thing, and thankfully, there is a solution. You're not stuck with it, and it doesn't have to be that part of being a mom that is just accepted and understood. So if your goal is to bounce on a trampoline again with your kids without wearing a maxi pad as a backup, I can get you there. So the job of the pelvic floor muscles is to contract and relax naturally as we go about our day, maintaining a low level of tension. It's more like a supportive muscle than a load-bearing muscle like your quads, for example. Now, when it comes to postpartum leakage, sometimes it happens because the muscles of the pelvic floor are weak, stretched out, and can't contract properly to hold urine. And that's where the idea of Kegels as a solution to leakage came from, and why so many believe it is the only answer. But not all women are weak or stretched out. Have you ever injured your back and it tightened up on you? Well, muscles do that instinctively to support the area from injury. And some of us are just naturally tense people. I'm sure people that always have the shoulders up at their ears and they're super, super tense. Some people are just naturally like that. But something like that can also happen to your pelvic floor. It can be too tight or too tense, unable to relax, resulting in a crazy amount of pressure put on the bladder. And what happens when there's a lot of pressure put on the bladder? Leakage is going to happen, especially if you are jumping up and down and then your pelvic floor is tight like a fist. But for a woman who is tight and leaking, you wouldn't want her to tighten things more with a Kegel. It's the wrong exercise in this situation, which is probably why some women say it's just something that you have to live with because they've tried the Kegels and things and nothing has improved. Okay, so this is our final exercise. It's going to give you an idea if you are working with a weak pelvic floor or maybe a pelvic floor that is tight and unable to relax. And our last exercise, it's called the pelvic floor elevator. And I'm going to walk you through this since there's nothing visual to see. All right, and so just listen while I explain it first, and then you can do the exercise and jot down the results. Who is ready? All right, so to begin, sit on a firm chair with feet flat on the ground. A soft couch might make this more difficult, so find a firm surface to sit on. Spread the cheeks and allow the pelvis to rest as close to your chair as possible. In a healthy pelvic floor, its natural resting state maintains a small level of resting tone, which in this example is going to be represented by the ground floor of an elevator. Now, when you take an inhale, your pelvic floor should relax and descend down into the basement. So if you struggle to feel the pelvic floor relaxing and descending, this could be an indication of a tight pelvic floor or a sign that you haven't established that mind-body connection with your pelvic floor quite yet. Now, when you take a normal exhale, your pelvic floor should hover around the ground level to the second floor, depending on how deep of a breather you are. And when it comes to a forced exhalation or a Kegel, depending on how strong your exhalation is or how forcefully you Kegel, you can make it anywhere from the third to this fifth floor. Now, if you're someone who can't manage your pressure, and you have a dysfunctional pelvic floor, something like an abdominal brace, a sneeze, or heavy lift can send your pelvic floor down out this basement window, which means pelvic organ prolapse. Take some time to practice this and move your pelvic floor up and down the elevator. Of course, you don't want to go out the basement window here, but just get an idea of the control and what it feels like to use your pelvic floor. And the reason why I shared the concept with you is that I would like for you to see that the abs, core, and pelvic floor all work together and realize that they're both connected. Being able to control the movement of the pelvic floor is important to your healing. And it's the best way to do that is through breathing. Breathing is the best way that we can manage harmful pressure on the abs and pelvic floor during this time of healing, retraining, and rebuilding. All right, so how did that go? Post in the chat if you're able to feel movement of the pelvic floor. If you couldn't feel a thing, that is okay. Sometimes that's a sign that you're weak, but it also could be because you've never done anything like this before and you don't have that mind-body connection established yet. So anyone here feel like they might have what is considered a tight pelvic floor? Post in the comments. Did anyone here feel any pressure when moving along the elevator? If you feel something is inside your vagina, or that can sometimes be a sign of prolapse, and I would 100% recommend that you visit a pelvic health physical therapist to get an accurate evaluation. This one exercise alone can give you so much information in regards to what's going on with your postpartum body. And things like a tight or weak pelvic floor can be fixed with exercise, so you don't need to avoid trampolines for the rest of your life. Many women experience issues with leaking after baby, but it doesn't have to be a life sentence. So the next time a guru says that Kegels are the answer to all things pelvic floor, your BS meter should be going off, and you'll know right off the bat that they don't know what they're talking about. Okay, so what has been most valuable for you from this presentation today? Did you have any aha moments? Did you learn about something new about yourself? I would love to hear your biggest takeaway in the chat. Awesome. Thank you. So after all of these 5 exercises, I know you have gained a lot of new information about your body and how it's functioning right now. Maybe you have just one thing from today's class to work on, or maybe you are just someone that needs to work on everything we talked about today, and that is okay too. I really hope that you take a moment with me right now and think about, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important it is to start improving these problems. Start thinking about what happens if you don't take the time to fix this stuff. Do you want to be on a path where you work towards your desires, like we discussed earlier, like weight loss, being confident in your skin, or keeping up with your kids? Or are you just going to ignore this stuff, blame time, your demanding schedule because it's easier just to deal with the same old struggles of pain, injury, and not loving the way you look? Which one will you choose? If you're someone who has answered 7 or above, I really want you to take the time right now to write in your notes, what do you want to commit to? Do you want to commit to improving your core, pelvic floor, body confidence, or being able to keep up with your kids as they get bigger? Those are just some examples of the common answers I see on my worksheets, but this commitment needs to be personal. And I want you to write it down so that you don't forget it and never take action like all those other fitness commitments you've made to yourself in the past, but never followed through. Now, if you're someone who has decided to commit to your health, I would love for you to type in the chat, I'm all in. Yeah, type it, all in, all in. Who's all in? I don't care like what that commitment looks like for you. I just want you to take action, some kind of action, and doing something instead of nothing. Whatever it is that you feel or felt today or have noticed in today's exercises doesn't mean that you're broken and will always be that way. If it's important to you, you do have the ability to change it. I'm going to wrap up on what we talked about today, but if you want to stick around and learn about my program, Rebuild After Baby, and the discount I'm offering to you for the next couple days, then I want you to stick around a little longer. And I'm going to go into the details of the program and answer any questions that you've had of what we covered in the workshop. If you don't want to learn more, it's okay to leave with the info from today. And I want you to apply it in any way that you feel, in any way that you want. And please feel free to post your questions in the Facebook group that are applied to this workshop, and I'm going to answer them if you need to head out. So totally cool. But if today's class left you with more questions than answers on what to do next, please stick around, because it sounds like if that is the case, then Rebuild After Baby is the program for you. So just to wrap up, we started talking about some of your fitness challenges and desires. Then I took you through all those myths about crunches, 6-week clearance, doing old workouts before proper rebuilding, and of course, talking about leakage and Kegels. We also did 5 different tests to learn more about breathing, posture, core, pelvic floor, and the way that your body handles pressure. Now, because you showed up today and you are still here with me right now, I know that you've learned more about your body and its specific strengths and weaknesses and what you should be doing right now. And I know if you 100%, if you applied what you learned today to your workouts, that you'd be able to reach your goals of body confidence, being able to keep up with your kids, have that long-term health without injury, and finally getting to a point where you can do the activities you love without risking something like a prolapse or hernia. Now, imagine possibilities for you if you took 1, 2, or even 3 months to focus on improving the areas of the body that you learned about today. What would the future look like in your mind if you were to achieve these goals? My question is, are you committed to taking action today, and action in a way where you don't have to piece together a solution with YouTube videos or blog posts? If you are committed to being that person, then the only thing that can stop you now is the how to do it part. I'm here to take away all the guesswork of this. I've done it for other moms, and I can help you do it too. I want to share with you how my Rebuild After Baby program can help you reach those goals faster and easier than if you do it alone. This program is not for everyone. This program is only for moms who are committed to making this change a priority and are willing to slow down a little to do some of this foundational work. There's an old saying that goes, a trainer can't do your push-ups for you. And the same is true here. You only get better if you do the work. So I'm looking for passionate moms who can devote at least 20 minutes a day, 4 to 5 times a week. And this program is not for those who tend to look for a quick fix, find excuses, or like plays the blame game, and just flat out don't do the work required for results. So if we're on the same page of who this program is for, I'm going to talk a little bit more about Rebuild After Baby. And if you've been paying attention to today's class, then you know the obvious reason why I created this program. Moms are missing out on the important information after baby. So many myths and misinformation are shared to moms, and it just leaves them injured, hurt, depressed, and lacking confidence in themselves. Rebuild After Baby is designed to rehab, rebuild, and strengthen the parts of the bodies that have been abused during pregnancy so that you can rebuild your body stronger than it was before baby, allowing you to keep up with your kids, avoid injury, and get back to those activities you love. My 8-week signature rebuilding method takes you step by step to rebuild your body by correcting, rebuilding, and re-strengthening. Starting first with the most important part, you guessed it, your breathing. When working to correct your posture, pelvic floor, core, backs, and hips. Then I'm going to show you how to apply that to life and then the next phase of your workouts. It'll also get you ready for the final step of your rebuild phase, which is bulletproofing your body so that you can finally start to do the workouts and activities that you love without injuring yourselves in the process. These are not just a bunch of random thrown together exercises. You'll be following a tried and true process and progression for rebuilding your body after baby. So what do you get? That's what everyone wants to know. You're going to have lifetime access to this program and all its material and a workout app to keep you on track. Weekly, we meet for group coaching calls with me as your guide to go over form, answer questions, and help you with any struggles that you have along the way. And I'm going to be there to hold your hand with you in this journey, and you're also going to get access to some amazing bonuses. After building this program, I realized that sometimes you have a baby in the way of your workouts. And that's why, as a bonus, I'm going to be sharing some mom and baby workouts so that you can throw the excuse out of the water, because you're going to have some exercises that you can do with your little one on hand. The next bonus I created for runners, for my high impact HIIT class ladies. Running and high impact exercises are a little special, and I want to be totally honest with you that after this program, there's still a few things that your body needs to be able to handle before running in high intensity work. So I have included my Back to Running workshop for all runners and high impact ladies. You are also going to be invited to my diastasis and leakage workshop to help you if you need some additional focus on those issues. I've got you covered. We've been talking so much about the body, but I haven't forgot about your mind. So if you're struggling with all things stress, confidence, motivation, and juggling life as a mom, the new Mom Mindset Workshop is absolutely amazing and can get you out of a funk. And finally, you'll have lifetime access to a private Facebook community just for Rebuild After Baby members, where you can find answers to your questions, accountability, camaraderie, all with an awesome group of strong moms just like you. What brings me the most joy is the results that my clients see after taking the time, going all in, and making rebuilding the body after baby a priority. Here's Rhonda. She was able to fix pain and injuries that she dealt with for years. And after 3 kids, she never thought she'd be able to be at a place where she could play with her kids the way that she wanted to. And Mandy was able to completely fix her leakage and start feeling good about herself again. I hope this all makes sense. Who here thinks that Rebuild After Baby is the answer that they are looking for? Just a quick recap here. Go back to the slide that I missed, but 8 weeks of corrective exercise plan, 5 times a week, weekly coaching calls, all those bonuses I talked about, the running bonus, the workout with the baby, the Facebook group, the mindset, the diastasis and leakage workshops. So the total value of this program and my time, expertise, personal training, and support is valued at over $5,000 a month. And yes, that is what some of these online gurus are charging for a program, with even less attention spent on you. I wanted to make the cost of the program easy and affordable so that you can truly get the help you need. Today, because you stuck around for this workshop. I know that you're serious, and I know that you're a person that takes action. That is why I'm offering a $50 discount for anyone who joins within the next few days. Technically, this sale does not start until Friday, but because I know so many of you are seriously ready to take action and take the next step, I'm going to open up early just for you guys. And your special price for a lifetime access to Rebuild After Baby is $247 or just $125 a month for 2 months. So if you need to break it down in 2 payments, I do have a payment option. And also, if you can see, there is a VIP opportunity with me. And if you're the type of person that goes all out, goes 110%. I have more one-on-one attention. And at this price, it is a no-brainer. You're going to get a one-on-one entrance consultation, 4 additional private coaching calls, weekly check-ins via text, and a one-on-one exit consultation. I want you to feel really comfortable when you join this program, and I want you to be 100% confident when you enroll in Strong Moms Rebuild After Baby. I only take dedicated, fitness-driven women into my programs. So if you join this and you decide it's not a good fit, I won't make you stick around. I only want people that want to be here in. So you've got a 14-day window to make that decision. Send me an email and I'll cancel your purchase. 100%, no questions asked. I don't like to mess around with that. And I know some people play games there, but make sure you act quickly because this special discount ends October 6th. So if you are ready to take the next step with me, I'm going to pop the program into the chat. And to join the program, simply click the link, sign up at the bottom, and complete the details on the application form within 72 hours. And once you get that stuff, you can start jumping in right away. The next round of the program officially kicks off October 17th. So giving you time to go through that material before you start, if you're just that person that likes to get ahead of the game. This is the time where I will answer any of your questions. So I'm going to go and post the link to the Rebuild After Baby into the comments if you wanted to check that out, if that's something that sounds awesome to you. And take a moment here also to put your questions in the chat box, and I can certainly answer any questions that you may have. Thank you for spending the evening with me, and I hope you've learned a lot. I'm going to keep this up for about 2 weeks if things were busy or crazy, and you had questions that never got answered, or you want to revisit some of the exercises so that you can fill out your workbook and do your full proper assessment when you have the time. I'm going to have those videos and replays up and available. Thank you, everybody. DM me your questions, post them in the comments, post them in the chat. Thank you for joining me and have a great night. And I look forward to responding to some of your comments in the chat. And yeah, just seeing you more in the group. So thanks. Have a good night. Bye.